We Bury the Dead, starring Daisy Ridley, is a 2025 movie which is set in the Apple Isle of Tasmania and also shot in the Apple Isle of Tasmania, which lies off the south coast of mainland Australia. For those of you who aren't familiar with Antipodean geography. And this one is a zombie movie of sorts. Well, kind of. Barely a zombie movie, I guess you'd say. And it does star Daisy Ridley, who is best remembered for those dreadful Star Wars movies, the most recent trilogy, which I think most of us have erased from our collective memory. And that's only been a good thing for all of the stars of that ill-fated attempt at a cash-in at a hostile acquisition of a beloved intellectual property. So just to go into that side of things for a minute, all of the actors that appeared in those Star Wars prequel films, like Daisy Ridley and John Boyega and Adam Driver and Oscar Isaacs, I kind of realised while I was watching this one that these young actors really did kiss the dick when it comes down to brass tacks. Because, hear me out, the Star Wars actors in the original trilogy, the original beloved, legendary, impossible to forget trilogy, they kind of took a poison chalice career-wise. They made all the money in the world from action figures and royalties and lunchboxes and everything else that comes part and parcel with these things. Actors like Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher and Billy D. Williams and all those great ensemble actors that were in the original Star Wars trilogy. And you might think that with the new Star Wars trilogy crashing so hard, being so widely forgotten, so eagerly forgotten by the public at large, that'd be a bad thing for the crop of actors that appeared in it. But I started thinking about it while watching this one, and they really were blessed. They made all of that sweet Star Wars money with dreadful tie-ins, dreadful fast food tie-ins, dreadful merchandise, action figures, all that sort of stuff. But they were kind of blessed by a collective amnesia that's that's taken over the public. And they got the best of both worlds. They didn't get typecast like Mark Hamill or Carrie Fisher or Anthony Daniels or Alec Guinness or any of those people. They appeared in these movies, they made the big money, and then these movies were largely forgotten in no time, pretty much like the entire Star Wars franchise after all this stuff came on the scene. And they've got the best of both worlds. They're all filthy rich, I'm assuming, from all of those endorsement deals, as long as they've been more responsible with their money than someone like, say, the Nature Boy Ric Flair, for example. So they've got the financial rewards, the golden rewards, the set-up for life benefits of appearing in these dreadful Star Wars reboot trilogy movies, whatever you'd like to call them. But they also have the benefit that these movies have been largely erased from the minds of the entire populace of the planet. And people have memories of goldfish as well, which also helps these days. So they haven't suffered those typecasting or being absurdly famous trappings that come with being in that used to come with being in a Star Wars movie. I mean, those people couldn't go anywhere. Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford and so forth. These guys have this delightful... they were able to cash in on that whole cynical exercise of rebooting Star Wars, while the collective amnesia from those movies being so forgettable, so dreadful, have worked in their favour that they really can walk among us in relative obscurity. And as this movie made me realise, they're free to pursue these artistic movies We've seen Oscar Isaacs do it. We've seen Adam Driver do it. And we've seen Daisy Ridley do it now. John Boyega, not sure what he's doing. He's probably off skateboarding, but half his luck if he got in and cashed out quickly to be largely forgotten, like everyone else in those Star Wars trilogy movies. But yeah, they've got the luxury of that sweet Star Wars money, plus these cool little independent film roles if they choose to take them. So that was my main takeaway from watching We Bury the Dead. But I'm getting a bit off track, but I just thought some of you would find that a bit interesting. The whole, the fact that the Star Wars cast from the new set of largely forgotten stinkers of reboots like The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, that they were so awful, so forgettable, that it actually did benefit everyone involved. So win-win. Whereas the original trilogy, which is still beloved to this day, or beloved, depending on how you like to pronounce that, those actors still suffer the curse of being forever associated with Star Wars. So that was one of my thoughts while watching We Bury the Dead, but also a bunch of other thoughts. This movie's basically, well, the premise is that a US warship is doing some nefarious military exercises off the coast of the Apple Isle, off the coast of Tasmania, presumably because the population's so low that if anything goes wrong, it's not the end of the world, apparently, in the opinions of the people at the US military or the US Navy. And naturally, something does go wrong. They have a EMP accident or intentional experiment or whatever the case may be. And this kills everyone instantly in the entire state of Tasmania, the island state of Tasmania, except for about seemingly 5 or 6 people who turn into zombies. And that's one of the weirdest things about this movie, is that it's billed as a zombie movie, it's sold as a zombie movie, but basically they chose not to deliver whatsoever on the zombie aspects for whatever reason. The zombies in this movie are basically a plot device to explain something throwaway, like that these people had unfinished business. But if that was the case, I'd say that every man and his dog would have unfinished business if they were to be taken straight away off the mortal coil by an EMT or an EMP. I think EMTs are like emergency workers. So by an EMP pulse. And naturally, there'd be very few people that don't have unfinished business, I'd say. That's the reason why deathbed confessions are such a big thing. Deathbed regrets and all the rest of it. So the premise of the movie is kind of flawed to begin with. We have Daisy Ridley, who... so we've had this EMP event, and naturally there's hundreds of thousands of dead Tasmanians rotting in their homes, rotting in their businesses, rotting in bars, even rotting in stag parties, as we find out. And the Australian government, which is another far-fetched part of this movie, they're incredibly efficient, and they basically draft, well, they don't draft, they ask for volunteers for basically a cleanup crew to dispose of all the bodies on the Apple Isle and presumably make it inhabitable enough so that private equity firms can jump in and snap up all of that sweet property, especially with our new capital gains tax changes, and make a mozza while the average Australian continues to become poorer. At least that's the way it seems to me for the plan. And as you'd imagine, the kind of people that volunteer for this sort of task, this grim task of bodily disposal in the Apple Isle of Tasmania, disposing of bodies that have been baking in the Tassie sun or even in the Tassie winter, whenever it's never quite established, although it does look like a nice springtime or summer environment. The kind of people that volunteer for such duties are, as you'd expect, they're people without many options. They're people that are running from something or trying to prove something to themselves. People with unfinished business, as it were. So we see a lot of troubled people, to say the least, that are volunteering for these cleanup crews, and they're going house to house. And as they find the bodies, they're dragging them out. And if they find the occasional zombie that's allegedly got unfinished business, they set off these flares, red smoky flares, and then the military comes in. Or it's never quite made clear whether it's the military or a militia. Either way, they're fairly unscrupulous type people by the look of it. And they come in and dispose of the said zombies with unfinished business. So the whole premise of this movie is quite confusing. It seems to want to be an art house film that's baiting audiences with the promise of zombies without ever actually delivering. They're not really zombies in your purest sense. There's not enough of them, in my opinion, to be classified as a zombie epidemic. There's only about 5 or 6 throughout the entire movie. It's the most piss-weak zombie epidemic of all time, if that's the premise. So it's trying to have a foot in both camps. It's trying to be a pretentious art house film, and it's also trying to appeal to people that want to see zombies, basically, without ever delivering, which is a little bit cynical in my opinion. And the whole premise of this movie's been done far better, far earlier. It was done a lot better in a movie called The Quiet Earth from 1985 with Bruno Lawrence. Similar sort of premise. That one was set in New Zealand, and there was a similar sort of phenomenon called The Effect in that one, which basically wiped out the entire populace. It made them vanish. And the whole movie basically was about Bruno Lawrence and his unraveling and his loneliness and isolation and all that jazz. And all in all, the premise of We Bury the Dead was done a hell of a lot better in that movie, The Quiet Earth. So I'd basically recommend that you check out The Quiet Earth long before you check out We Bury the Dead, if you are curious about this whole concept. Daisy Ridley, as I said, like the rest of those Star Wars sequels, I guess you'd say, actors like Oscar Isaacs and Adam Driver and so on and so forth. John Boyega. She has had the luxury, unlike the original Star Wars cast, of appearing in these movies that were simultaneously huge and profitable, but also simultaneously forgotten and erased from our collective memories. I mean, I think it's safe to say that none of you watching have felt the need to revisit any of those Star Wars movies or even thought about any of those Star Wars movies. With the disposable nature of streaming and Disney's business model, basically the only Star Wars content that has any relevance to anyone is whatever Star Wars content is currently streaming, and it's largely forgotten in 3 seconds. I think that the reception to the current Mandalorian Baby Yoda movie is kind of a testament to that. They've tried to go back to theatrical releases, but I think they've cheapened that franchise, made it so disposable for such a long amount of time, and so cynically, and so obviously cynically, that it really has zero value in the hearts and minds of cinephiles around the world. Even the lowest common denominator doesn't seem to give a rat's about any of these Star Wars properties at this stage in 2026. So, yeah, the cast of Star Wars, including Daisy Ridley, have sort of, they've won a kind of lottery, sort of dodging the whole association with those movies, while simultaneously they were able to get in and get out and get the cash quickly, as I said, from all those endorsement deals and fast food deals and all the rest of it. And they have all been able to reinvent themselves as these kind of art house actors. So good luck to them. I know a lot of people were mean to Daisy Ridley. They called her a Mary Sue or whatever, but she had the last laugh, in my opinion. She's smarter than most of these internet trolls that were very mean to her. She was able to get in, get out, exploit the whole thing as much as Disney were exploiting the whole thing, and cleverly reinvent herself as this, I guess you'd say, art house film actor who has the bank balance of a non-art house film actor, which is the best case scenario that any actor can hope for, really. I mean, you want to make these little art house movies that you're not getting paid very much for, while simultaneously having about $30 million in assets, which is probably what Daisy Ridley and Oscar Isaacs and John Boyega and all the rest of the newer crop of Star Wars actors have. I'd also throw Pedro Pascal into that mix to an extent, but he hasn't been wise enough to get out of it quite as quickly as the rest of them. But I guess he has been wise enough to wear a mask so that people will forget that he was in all of these forgettable Star Wars properties in years to come, and he'll be able to similarly reinvent himself, I guess, if he wants to, as an art house actor. Or he'll be able to go the whole Tucker Carlson route and spend most of his time fly fishing and hunting if he wants to. And realistically, these guys have, all of these Star Wars actors in the current crop have really engineered their lives to for an absolute flawless victory in winning at playing the Hollywood system, I guess you'd say. So this has been a bit of a rambly review. I know it was mostly meant to be about We Bury the Dead. Apologies if you wanted to find out more about We Bury the Dead, but there's really not a lot to say about it. The sort of the sphere around it with the whole phenomenon of blockbuster actors that are forgotten in 5 seconds kind of interested me more than the movie itself in this regard. I mean, Daisy Ridley herself, she's fine, I guess, as an actress. As fine as any other actor or actress working out there. But I guess her real talent has been in engineering this whole movie business in her favour, or at least her managers engineered it in her favour. So hats off to both of them. Very clever people, in my opinion. Bordering on genius to sort of fall into that Star Wars universe and effortlessly slip out of the crashing Star Destroyer before it plows into a planet and is forgotten in the dust. So if you're curious about We Bury the Dead, if you get a chance to see it and it's not going to cost you anything or cost you much, might be worth a look. Especially if you're a Tasmanian, I guess, you might find it a bit of a novelty to see your home state in a state of disrepair, of disarray. But if you're a zombie fan, you're probably going to be sorely disappointed by this one. There's even zombie movies that have tackled similar subjects that have been done a whole lot more effectively. One that springs to mind is The Grapes of Death, directed by Jean Rollin. And in my opinion, The Grapes of Death is Jean Rollin's only good movie. He's largely one of the most overrated Euro directors there is, in my opinion. And that one tackles the subject of unfinished business or of emotional zombies and that sort of thing a lot more effectively than We Bury the Dead does. So it's also a pretty cool concept. The Grapes of Death, it's basically about people drinking tainted wine and turning into zombies. It's set in the French winemaking countryside, so you get all of that eye candy of wonderful countryside with vineyards and chateaus and French zombies who sometimes feel guilty, they sometimes cry, they're sometimes confused. And just like The Quiet Earth, I'd recommend The Grapes of Death. Head and shoulders above We Bury the Dead. Basically tackles a lot of the similar, or a lot of the same concepts as that one, a lot more effectively, a lot more cleverly. And I guess the main takeaway from We Bury the Dead is, if you're thinking about watching this movie, you're probably going to get a more satisfying result from entertaining a movie double of The Quiet Earth from 1985, starring Bruno Lawrence, and followed up with Jean Rollins' The Grapes of Death. So both superior movies by every metric. But as I said, I can't help but walk away from We Bury the Dead, this movie, without admiring the hustle, I guess you'd say, of Daisy Ridley and her Force Awakens, Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker co-stars, who really did take something that was undeniably a lemon, and they've made some sensational lemonade with their personal finances and also their subsequent film choices. And they've been a lot more successful than others that have tried a similar route. The kid out of Harry Potter, Daniel Radcliffe, springs to mind. He was in the incredibly successful Harry Potter series, but he didn't have the advantage that people like Oscar Isaacs or Daisy Ridley or John Boyega had. The Harry Potter movies are still quite beloved by fans and by the public at large, so he has been struck by that whole original Star Wars trilogy curse that grabbed Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher and co. And even though he's chosen some interesting roles in some obscure Arthouse films, he just will never be able to escape that, unfortunately, that Harry Potter stigma. So he's kind of got that disadvantage of being in a still beloved franchise, and that hasn't held back actresses like Daisy Ridley or John Boyega or Oscar Isaacs, because let's be honest, they don't have that problem because those movies are dreadful. The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, I can barely even remember the titles, let alone anything that happened in the movies. They have been struck from our collective memories, and it's been a win-win for the actors out of those movies. It's been a win-win for Rian Johnson, who similarly, he was able to bank that sweet Star Wars coin, and I can only assume that everything that he did in The Rise of The Last Jedi, I think it was quite deliberate in deconstructing and destroying that franchise. It's seeming more and more like that as time goes on, because he's similarly an admirable character. He's made these very cool Knives Out movies, reinvented himself as like an art house director, and he's made Poker Face, which was also great, and I'd highly recommend checking that one out as well. So Rian Johnson is another person who is very much hated by the nerdosphere, I guess you'd say, but in my opinion, he's kind of a genius, because he apparently he was able to destroy and deconstruct something for personal gain. If that was intentional. If it was unintentional, well, he's had a lottery win, much like the other the Star Wars cast members from the newer movies, and was able to dance that fine tightrope of banking that sweet Star Wars money while not being associated with Star Wars, because everyone's forgotten Star Wars, and being able to quickly pivot and reinvent himself with things like the Knives Out movies and also Poker Face. So they're all highly recommended, and I don't think I'm the Lone Ranger in saying that they're all a lot more interesting than anything he did with Star Wars. So, but who's to say? I mean, apparently they're talking about him being handed another Star Wars trilogy, so maybe it isn't sufficiently destroyed quite yet. So hopefully he'll he'll be able to finish the mission if that's the case. So this has been a bit of a rambly video. It kind of hasn't turned out how I expected, but that's what life's like. Life is unexpected, especially nowadays. Hope you've enjoyed this little bit of a ramble otherwise. This brief look, I guess, at We Bury the Dead, but this mostly look at the fascinating phenomenon of people that were able to snatch the victory of big bank balances and successful independent movie careers out of something that appeared quite disastrous at the time. So that was the main takeaway for me, the main thing I found interesting. I hope you found it interesting as well. If you have any thoughts on any of this, on the phenomenon of, let me know in the comments whether or not you think that appearing in those Star Wars movies was a net positive for Daisy Ridley, Oscar Isaacs, John Boyega and others. If you agree with me on that, if you disagree with me on that, I think a lot of you may agree with me on that. And if you have seen We Bury the Dead, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that one. What were you expecting? What did it deliver? Did you find it entertaining at all? I found it interesting, but interesting for other reasons than the movie itself. And if you did enjoy the video, by all means, do a brother a favour and like, share and subscribe. And that's about all I've got. Thanks for joining me today or this evening or in the morning, whenever you happen to be watching. Till next time, stay safe and take it very easy. And I look forward to catching you next video.